Assalamualaikum everyone. Today our group will present an analysis of the case study titled Another Staff Meeting. Communication plays an important role in every organization because it helps employees exchange information, coordinate tasks and make discussion effectively. Meetings are one of the main platform for communication between managers and employees. However, for meeting to be effective, they must be well planned, have a clear objective, and encourage participation from everyone involved. In this case study, the meeting was chaired by Jim M. Celine and a department manager. The meeting was announced at the last minute and employees were not given enough time to prepare. During the meeting, Jim introduced the issue of reducing departmental red tape and asked employees to submit suggestions by the next morning. However, when employees raised other important concerns, particularly June Hanks, their opinion were largely ignored. As a result, the meeting failed to achieve meaningful discussion or productive outcome. Based on the case study, there are several main problems in the meeting. First, the meeting was arranged at the last minute, causing employees to feel unprepared and frustrated. Second, there was no clear agenda, making the discussion unfocused and ineffective. Third, employee feedback was ignored. For example, June's concern was dismissed by Jim without proper consideration. And the last one is communication was mostly one way as Jim dominated the discussion and limited employee participation. As a result, employee become disengaged and the meeting failed to achieve its objective. Now, I will pass the presentation to Mai, who will explain the communication issue in more detail.
One of the most significant issues in this case is Jim's habit of scheduling meetings at the last minute. He often informs employees only a few hours before meeting begins. For example, June and her colleagues frequently receive short notice, which disrupts their work schedules and prevents them from preparing effectively. This shows a lack of consideration for employees' time and responsibilities. As a result, staff may experience stress, frustration, and difficulty planning their tasks. In the long run, this can reduce productivity and even cause deadlines to be missed. To address this, Jim should establish a consistent meeting schedule, such as weekly or monthly meetings, and provide advance notice. This allows employees to prepare properly, improve organization, and at the same time creates a more productive working environment. The second significant issue that has arisen in the case study is lack of clear plans and agendas. To illustrate, Jim often begins the meeting session weekly without any clear plans in mind, which leads to unfocused discussion and time is often wasted. Without a clear plan, staff members easily get distracted and meeting tends to end abruptly without any outcome that could be achieved. This lack of coordination emphasizes the importance of communication and it also lessens the value of meeting as a tool of collaboration. Towards the end, employees will leave the meeting without any clear direction on which tasks should be prioritized. To add more, the lack of clear planning also equals weak leadership, and in this context, Jim's weak leadership has been the most critical factor. When Jim, as the leader, failed to provide direction, employees perceive meetings as a failure to meet the expectations of the company. This perception may reduce employees' confidence and motivation. The next issue is Jim's tendency to dismiss his employees' contribution. For example, when June raised concerns about the VIP service program, Jim immediately dismissed her feedback instead of considering it. This discourages open communication and makes employees feel undervalued. As a result, employees may become reluctant to share their ideas or suggestions in the future. Over time, this weakens trust between leaders and employees and also creates a culture where people remain silent even when they have important information to contribute. In the long term, ignoring employee input can prevent organizations from identifying problems and making improvement. Therefore, Jim should practice active listening and acknowledge employees' consent even if their ideas are not ultimately adopted. Lastly, another significant issue in this case study is one-way communication. During meetings, Jim often dominates the discussion by demanding ideas from employees, but he does not genuinely listen to their responses. As a result, employees became silent, disengaged, and less willing to participate in the discussion. This actually creates a workplace with low psychological safety, where employees feel their opinions are not valued. According to Foltman, 2024, leaders who actively listen are more likely to gain the trust of their employees. When communication only flows in one direction, opportunities for collaboration and innovation are reduced. To address this issue, Jim should encourage two-way communication by asking open-ended questions and actively listening to employees' feedback. This will help employees feel more confident and create a more collaborative.
This toxic style has created a severe culture of fear within the department. Jim relies heavily on his formal title to silence any form of dissent. When senior staff like June raise valid concern, Jim uses political tactics to publicly undermine and isolate them. This is driven by a strong confirmation bias, where Jim prioritizes winning the argument over solving actual business problems. Because constructive feedback is treated as a personal attack, the rest of the managers have completely shut down and disengaged. To fix this department, we propose a strategic turnout plan divided into 3 actionable steps. First, we must overhaul the meeting culture by enforcing a predictable calendar, strict punctuality, and sharing agendas 1 week in advance. Second, Jim needs targeted leadership coaching to shift his communication styles from argumentative to collaborative, learning to ask open-ended questions. Finally, we must establish realistic timelines, stop the impossible overnight deadlines, and instead utilize small manager committees with a 2 to 3 weeks window for complex issues. This will restore trust and leverage the team's true expertise.
In Jim's meeting, several weaknesses affected how decisions were made and how employees participated. First, there was a lack of structure. The meeting had no clear process or evaluation method, and employees were barely involved in the decision-making. This made discussions unorganized and confusing. Second, Jim used a top-down approach, where decisions were based on his personal priorities rather than the actual issues faced by the team. This created a gap between management and employees. Third, there was a poor problem identification. Instead of focusing on urgent VIP service issues, Jim spent time discussing red tape, which wasn't the main concern. Fourth, there was no mutual agreement. Although employees supported Jim's concern, Jim ignored their input, showing a lack of respect for their team opinions. Fifth, the evaluation of alternatives was weak. There was no brainstorming or comparison of possible solutions. The ideas were rushed and not properly discussed. Lastly, Jim's dominating leadership style discouraged participation. He dismissed employee response, which made people hesitant to speak up and reduce open communication. These weaknesses had serious impacts on overall decision-making effectiveness. There was a clear misalignment between management focus and employee concerns, which led to frustration and misunderstanding. Employees became silent and disengaged, feeling that their opinions didn't matter. This silence reduced the quality of critical thinking and collaboration as fewer ideas were shared and discussed. So ultimately, the team failed to reach effective, shared discussions because communication broke down and participation was very limited. So in short, Jim's leadership approach weakened teamwork and made decision-making less effective.
For this slide, I will explain some recommendations to improve future meetings. First, meetings should be planned earlier to avoid last-minute scheduling, which can cause confusion. Next, giving advance notice is important so employees have enough time to prepare. It is also helpful to set a consistent meeting schedule so everyone knows when meetings will take place. In addition, the manager should prepare a clear objective and a structured agenda to keep the meeting organized. Discussion should stay focused to avoid wasting time, and important issues should be prioritized. Overall, this step can help make meetings more effective and productive. For this slide, I will discuss communication improvement and the conclusion. First, two-way communication should be encouraged so employees can share their ideas freely without fear. Managers should also practice active listening and involve employees in decision-making. Team collaboration and brainstorming can help generate better ideas. At the end of meetings, clear conclusion and follow-up actions should be given. In conclusion, poor planning and weak leadership can lead to ineffective meetings. Therefore, clear communication, good teamwork, and strong leadership are very important. With better planning and communication, meetings can become more productive and successful.